Welcome to the Terrible Podcast with your hosts from SteelersDepot.com, where you can find all your latest and greatest Steelers news. It's Dave Bryan and Alex Kozora, always lit, talking Steelers. And now, here's Dave and Alex.
Welcome to the Terrible Podcast, another special edition of the Terrible Podcast, Pittsburgh Steelers Training Camp 2022. It is August the 10th. It is Wednesday. It is 4:38 Eastern Time. And I am Dave Bryan, and joining me once again is Alex Kozora, who had another early morning trip to Saint Vincent College in Latrobe, with training camp practice getting moved up for a second consecutive day to avoid the bad weather. And Alex is now back home safely and ready to talk about what he observed out there. And I have a feeling we got quite a few interesting things to talk about today. So with that, Alex, happy Wednesday.
Happy Wednesday, Dave. You know what? I don't hate the morning practices. They're actually not too bad. Get done a little bit early, a little bit cooler, although I'm not really sure why it got moved up. Whenever I left this morning, they were not calling for rain, and I checked the radar or weather report around 2 o'clock, and maybe a stray shower or two, but I'm not really sure what big storm was coming in. But regardless, 10:30 a.m. was the practice, and it was a more lower energy day with a team in shells, but still a good day of work.
All right, before we get started here, and apologize to everybody, we did not have a full edition of the Terrible Podcast Wednesday morning. I think that's an obvious reason. Now Alex had to hit the ground running first thing. There really isn't a whole heck of a lot going on outside of training camp right now anyway. So what we're going to do is the next full edition of the podcast will be on Friday. We will have plenty to talk about, I think, on that, because Mike Tomlin is scheduled to meet the media Thursday morning. Probably going to tell us who he's leaving the light on to play, what the quarterback rotation might be, and those sort of things there. So apologies for no full edition of the Terrible Podcast on Wednesday. We will be back doing that on Friday morning, assuming that, well, they got an off day, so I know we're going to get that in for sure. There, the Steelers' first preseason game is obviously Saturday at Acrisure Stadium against the Seattle Seahawks Saturday night. So we're looking forward to that. And before we go any further, we better give a shout out to Touring Plans and the fine folks over there, including one Len Testa. Alex.
Of course, Touring Plans, as we mentioned, a longtime sponsor of Steelers Depot in our training camp coverage. If you're looking to plan a trip to Disney, as I'm sure many people do yearly, be sure to go to touringplans.com, and they'll help you out with the plans for Disney's best rides, honest restaurant reviews, how to save on Disney tickets, the best hotel rooms to ask for, and so much more. So go to touringplans.com. You can find a link to them in the camp notes at the top. Be sure to tell them that Len Testa and Steelers Depot sent you.
Absolutely. And we appreciate them for once again being a sponsor of the special editions of the podcast. Before we go any further, if you're listening to this and you're a surfer at SteelersDepot.com, we've had some reports of some of these rogue, I guess, redirects that targeting, I guess, Google customers, saying you want an iPhone. I'm sure some of you have seen these type ads in the past there. We've gotten some reports of that. If you are getting these kind of pop-ups on, and they're probably happening on your phone or on your iPad or something, take a screenshot of it and send us an email, theterriblepodcast@gmail.com. Include that screenshot, the time that you were surfing and got that, and if you can, maybe the browser and the device that you're using. If we get more of this kind of info, we can provide this to our ad company so we can kind of filter out where this rogue ad is coming from. We apologize if any of you are getting this. I know a lot of you probably aren't. We think it's really just Chrome surfers and on certain type of phones, but we're not sure. But if you are getting these, feel free to take a screenshot, send it to theterriblepodcast@gmail.com, along with as much information as you can. And that certainly will help us out. We apologize for that, but I wanted to kind of get that PSA out there. We were going to do it on the podcast this morning, but obviously we didn't have that episode. So moving on from that housekeeping, let's get to some other housekeeping, Alex. And that's Mike Tomlin did not give us much of an injury report today. It might have been the briefest of all of them so far in training camp, and some have been pretty brief overall. So you are going to have to be our eyes today, Alex, once again, and let us know who was working, who was limited, and all the good stuff goes along with that.
Sure. Not practicing today was Derek Watt with the shoulder, Alex Highsmith with the ribs, Jannard Avery, groin, Kevin Dotson, ankle, foot, Montravius Adams, ankle, Deontay Johnson, hip. Zach Gentry, did not even see Gentry today. Don't know what's going on there. UG3 still in that boot. Mateo Durant, unknown reason. Marcus Allen with the hamstring, also did not see Chase Claypool. Don't know if that's a personal thing, a shoulder issue again, or something else. Najee Harris was limited. I believe that Miles Killebrew worked back in full today. Marcus Allen did some jogging on the side, and so he's slowly making progress from that hamstring injury. But those are the names who are out. Dotson looked okay. He had nothing on that right foot or ankle, walked around fine. So I believe that's minor, but of course, still valuable time missed.
Yeah, and look, this is past the midway point. That if you look back over the years, we have kind of these lists, right, that kind of grow to about the way they are now. Now, 2 new injuries, I think, on Wednesday. Mike Tomlin obviously didn't address any of them. Benny Snell Jr. had something, a wrap on his right knee. I don't think he finished. And that new receiver, Javon McKinley, evidently had something around his left shoulder. They're unable to finish as well, too. So once again, with a game coming up on Saturday, going to be interesting to see how many of these guys, look, some of these guys are going to be concussed birth certificates as it is, veterans not playing, but there's probably going to be another pretty decent group of these guys that aren't able to play because of injuries.
Right. Not too worried about Snell. Some of that's maintenance stuff that happens to guys. I know Pat Fryermuth's had ice on that knee for the last couple of days. I believe McKinley got hurt on that back shoulder throw from Pickett. He kind of fell pretty hard and was a little slow getting up, but did get up. And so no surprise he maybe had something worked on there after the fact. But minor stuff overall, I would say. And overall, this team's in pretty good shape, although I'll feel better seeing Chase Claypool back, and of course, did not even see Montravius Adams on the field today. And so that's kind of a big outstanding one. Don't really know what the extent of that ankle injury is.
Yeah, we'll keep our fingers crossed there for sure. Okay, shall we start with some position groups and some observations from today? And we will start, I guess, with the quarterback position. And sounds like there was some good in there with Kenny Pickett today, right?
There was. I thought, especially 2-minute drill, the offense dominated. I think the defense really had the really bested the offense prior to the 2-minute drill to close out practice. But both Mason Rudolph and Kenny Pickett leading quick touchdown drives to finish things out. I thought Pickett's accuracy on the move was the most impressive part. Had some nice throws in 7-on-7. Tyler Snead deep ball down the right sideline. But overall, the accuracy on the move's been good with Kenny Pickett. Rudolph was effective, the only guy to throw touchdowns in 7 shots today. He went 2 for 2 on his 2 reps there. And so those guys were probably the 2 better quarterbacks in a tough day for Mitch Trubisky. Had a really good day yesterday. Today was probably one of his, worst days of training camp. Did not work in the 2-minute drill. I'm sure that was already pre-planned, but just really kind of had a tough time both in 7 shots and during some of the team sessions as well.
Okay, and how is Pickett? I think you noted a couple times that maybe he would have been sacked a few times if it would have been live.
Yeah, I mean, that happens, especially with all the booting that they do and stuff like that. Linebackers get to chase and be a little bit more free getting after the quarterback, and probably some would-be sacks, or certainly, tougher plays for the quarterbacks there. I think the one throw that Pickett had to Boykin right side, that would have probably been a would-be pressure or sack, or would have been a different set of circumstances had tackling been allowed. But still, you can still watch a guy throw on the move, and you see that accuracy and placement there, and that's been consistently good with Pickett, really from the start, but that's also probably improved a bit as camp's gone along.
What was the most concerning thing maybe about Mitch Trubisky today?
I don't know if there was one thing. It's just maybe some poor decisions. I mean, he should have thrown 2 interceptions in 7 shots. There was one that got tipped and nearly picked by Carl Joseph. Another that was really, Robert Spillane had great coverage in the back of the end zone, and that one just kind of went through his hand. So maybe just not seeing the field as cleanly. And again, it's always tough to tell watching it just one time through. Don't really get the whole picture, replays, all 22, etc. Maybe just some bad decision making from Mitch Trubisky today, but ultimately just a lack of efficiency. I'll have to tally up the numbers, but I'm going to guess his completion percentage today was low.
How would you describe Mason Rudolph's day?
It was good. Again, the most successful guy in 7 shots. He went 2 for 2 there. Led that great 2-minute drill. His deep ball, I think Mike Tomlin mentioned this a couple of days ago, and I've said this for a while about Mason Rudolph. He throws the best deep ball of any of the 3 quarterbacks there, not only in terms of the actual arm strength, but more importantly, the accuracy on his deep ball to me is pretty high level, and had a great throw to George Pickens for 37 yards in that 2-minute drill. So I think whenever he drives the football vertically, the placement, the accuracy has been really good throughout camp.
Mike Tomlin yesterday, I think in an interview with Bryant McFadden on CBS Sports HQ, said if the season started today, Mitch Trubisky would essentially be the starter. I think a lot of the major media guys that, come into town for early in camp and do the reports and then go away, I think they're running with the fact that it's Mitch Trubisky. And look, just general speculation overall would lead you to believe, and really has been the case since Trubisky was signed, that Trubisky will be the week 1 quarterback. Is there anything to interject into that? Is this as cut and dry as that right now?
I mean, that's kind of my feel of it. Trubisky's run as the starter since the spring, and he's run it throughout camp consistently without really much of a rotation there. So could he lose the job? Sure. And I think, Rudolph's given him a pretty good push overall, but I think it's Trubisky's job to lose, and a lot will still have to happen for him to lose that job. So that's where I'm at. I'm still expecting Trubisky to be the guy week 1 against the Bengals. Again, not going to write that in pen, but, we're getting fairly close to a decision time here. Right. And I think Trubisky is still in the driver's seat.
Has Mason been the best quarterback top to bottom?
Overall, yes. I said that, I think, coming out of the off day, and nothing this week has changed that. Trubisky had a really good day yesterday. Again, I think the thought is there's been ebb and flow with all these guys, which was really expected. I didn't expect any of Trubisky or Rudolph or Pickett to be excellent wire to wire or be terrible wire to wire. They're all kind of in that middle, there's no franchise quarterback here. There's no guy that's just, totally terrible. And so you're going to get good days. You're going to get bad days. You're working with new receivers. The injuries have created different rotations and stuff like that. An offensive line that's still trying to gel and figure things out. And so you're going to get that up and down play. And that was kind of my expectation. That's basically what I've gotten. But if you had to pick who's been the best quarterback, just looking at these 3 guys in a vacuum over the 11 public practices, I would say Mason Rudolph has been the best quarterback.
And look, this thing, once they get into stadiums, this thing should become a lot more clearer, right?
Sure. And hopefully guys get reps, and they should. And we'll hear from Mike Tomlin tomorrow. And I imagine he'll give an overall outline of how the quarterback division of labor will go in terms of who's going to start and who will be second. It's not going to be, again, written in pen in terms of you're going to play the first quarter and only the first quarter. I mean, there'll be an expectation and a general plan, but based on what happens, let's say the offense goes 3 and out, or the opposing offense has a really long drive that eats up the entire first quarter. Pittsburgh's able to adjust, and they'll, it's really more of a reps-based thing than it is a quarter time thing. But I expect Trubisky to start tomorrow's or Saturday's game, and Tomlin will probably confirm as much tomorrow.
Where was I going to go with this? I've lost my train of thought there real quick. But anyway, all right. Anything? Chris Oladokun. Poor guy. What's he been up to?
I do have a note on Chris Oladokun in my notes today. It was on the one-on-one drills, which is Oladokun has participated in the entire time, and had a low throw to Steven Sims that he could not corral. So not a good note on Chris Oladokun, but it is a note nonetheless. But again, 0 reps in 7-on-7. The entire camp, 0 reps in team. The entire camp, he only works in the on-air stuff with the receivers, and then the one-on-one competition where it's, say, backs on linebackers or receivers on DBs, is generally was today. And so that's all it's been on him. I think that was a mistake of a pick. I get it's a seventh rounder. I'll say my piece on that. I think it was just a wasted seventh round selection.
So you can report, though, he is alive, right?
He is alive. He is there. He is in person, not on the milk carton, but don't expect to see him against Seattle.
All right. Anything else you'd like to add about the quarterback position?
I think that connection, I will say, from Trubisky to Pickens overall has been good. I mean, and part of that's because Pickens has mostly worked with the ones, and so he's gotten to play with Trubisky the most. And you saw Rudolph, when he worked with the ones today in that 2-minute drill, have really a good connection with George Pickens. Maybe that just says Pickens is a good guy to connect with regardless of who the quarterback is. But I like the chemistry there between Trubisky and Pickens. And, Pickens is a guy that's made these quarterbacks look pretty good as well at certain points during camp.
While you talked about Pickens, let's go ahead and go to the wide. Let's mix it up and go to the wide receivers next. He had a hell of a day, according to the Twitter machine.
He did. And I've always cautioned a little bit that there's still work to do, that he's a little rough around the edges. But, Dave, he has all the tools, all the traits, and really exciting to watch. And he just took over that 2-minute drill. And those were just 2 completions back-to-back, 37 yards, left sideline, go ball. Really nice pass from Mason Rudolph, but Pickens able to track it and make the catch on Levi Wallace. Very next play, red zone fade, to Pickens, left corner of the end zone, makes the catch, and that was his best catch he's made so far. He's made some good ones this summer in terms of a one-handed grab, kind of reached out with his right hand, was able to kind of tuck it back to his body, make the catch, secure the football. I think he fell on his back in the end zone for the touchdown, and that ended the 2-minute drill for the first-team offense. And then one-on-one, Mike Tomlin called out Kelly Witherspoon and Pickens to line up. Pickens beats Witherspoon vertically, makes a nice catch there. So, again, all the tools, all of the traits, really high energy kind of guy. And this guy has earned that right to celebrate because he's made some really good plays.
With him, I tell you, from the rogue video that's out there on the Twitter sphere, what gets me the most excited about anything is just seeing a lot of these middle of the field throws more than 10 yards down the field.
Yeah, and that was a departure, obviously, from what happened with Ben, where there was a reluctance to do that. The touchdown, not to Pickens, but to Steven Sims today on Pickett's 2-minute drill was a post route over the middle of the field, and that was a nice play there. There was a good throw. I think it was Mason who threw it, maybe Trubisky, to Gunner over the middle, and Minka did a nice job, a nice play to close on the football there and break that pass up, but still, a seam ball to Gunner Olszewski, 20-plus yards downfield. So you've certainly seen this team work more areas of the field than they did last year under Ben.
All right. How about, obviously, no Deontay Johnson, no Chase Claypool. What about somebody? Olszewski's having a nice camp, isn't he? As a receiver?
He is. Yeah, it's not been anything, spectacular, but he's been really efficient. He's worked the underneath stuff well and crossers and sitting versus zone and things like that. Has a good feel for, the soft spots and things like that. So a nice camp for him. Miles Boykin has come on really strong. He had a nice catch in 7 shots. Another kind of similar to what Pickens had at the end of the day. Boykin had kind of a one-handed grab, I think, for one of the first touchdowns in that 7 shots session. He's really been better than Anthony Miller's been the last maybe week or so. And so those guys continue to battle. Miller had a drop today, a pretty bad one at that, from a pass from Kenny Pickett. So I think Boykin's come on more strongly, whereas Miller's still getting work, but hasn't been as strong as Boykin over the last, say, 5, 6, 7 practices.
All right. How about the other rookie, Calvin Austin III?
Yeah, he's been good. He had some good battles with Chris Steele today and some of the one-on-one stuff. And the final rep there, they're about to go for a team session, and Mike Tomlin has these guys go one last time because Steele and Austin had one each on an in-cut. Steele had a breakup, and then Austin had a catch, and so they go again. Austin runs just a straight go route, and you see that 4.32 speed come alive, burn Steele for by 2-3 steps, and pass was actually overthrown. I don't know who threw it, but you apparently can overthrow Calvin Austin, but you certainly saw that speed there just running in a line, and that speed is very real.
I tell you what, both these kids, and Pickens and Austin, I think, and this is something that I hope for ahead of the draft, obviously, just having a couple of guys that can get vertical and get some separation, right?
Yeah, I think they'll have that. And Pickens, is a guy who can separate, but he'll be a really good above the rim player that'll separate in the air almost, because he is so springy and so long and really catches away from his body well. So two guys with different skill sets, of course, in Pickens and Austin, but have done well overall.
All right, running back, are you prepared to have your pads packed for tomorrow? Because they might need you in those lines, Alex.
They've been really short. They have not signed anybody, which is surprising, because I guess they're just really allowing Jaylen Warren and Master T to get as many reps and carries as they can handle. Less to learn about today because the padless nature of practice, there really was no tackling. Jaylen Warren did have a 40-yard completion or reception down the left sideline. That was a blown coverage by the defense in the 2-minute drill, but you kind of saw some of that longer speed that Warren had in open field, which, you usually don't see even in the live sessions because things are so congested, but saw a little bit of burst in speed there for Jaylen Warren. Other than that, not a ton of notes other than to say that Anthony McFarland continues to get work in the pony packages, and that's been pretty common for him consistently throughout camp.
We'll see what happens with Snell and that knee that he had ice on come Saturday, but it might be down to 3, right?
Yeah, Snell didn't strike me as anything to worry about too much,
Okay.
but we'll see. But certainly, I mean, you can't go into a game with 3 running backs, and Connor Hayward is not going to get carries, so don't think about that either. So, and the good thing is with the running back, you can kind of sign him pretty quick, a day or two in advance, and just put him on the field.
Mm-hmm.
And that may be what happens. We'll see what happens with Mateo Durant. He was kind of working a little bit today, but based on what he was doing, it doesn't really tell me he's going to be ready for Saturday. We'll see, but there may be a late signing there just to get another guy into the game against Seattle.
All right. A lot of people won't care about this next question, but I will. Where's Jaylen Warren primarily working in special teams, or have you got enough data on that yet?
Well, still second team up back. Some of the other stuff is kind of skeleton and harder to see. Again, he'll be on punt coverage. There was one of the up backs. That's the other thing too, is why you want to have depth there, because if Jaylen Warren goes and runs down a punt and he was, whatever the case is on special teams, he'll be kind of gassed, and you want to have a good rotation there. And Master Teague may have to get some reps on special teams as well. So I don't know where else Warren would play from what I've seen so far, but he'll be at least one of the up backs on the punt team. Maybe
put Chris Oladokin in late, run a lot of Wildcat.
Yeah, for real. I mean, get him some reps somewhere. That's a good point.
Okay, tight end position. Pat Freiermuth, I think maybe 1 or 2 team reps today. That was it. Working to knock the rust off still. No Zach Gentry. Just Raiders, Sternberger, and I guess Connor Hayward, right?
Right. Lions pretty thin there. Freiermuth did work in team, got a fair amount of reps, had 1 target. That was a good breakup by Trey Norwood. It's been a quiet camp for Freiermuth. Obviously, the hamstring injury is a large part of that. I don't know if Pat Freiermuth has made a catch in team session yet, the entire camp. And again, obviously, a large chunk of that was because he was not practicing in full. And so we're talking about, 4 practices of teamwork, but not ideal start for him. Not that I'm super concerned about that. Other notes, Jay Sternberger just body catches too much, too many drops. He's not going to be a great blocker. He's a decent athlete with a little bit of burst and route running ability, but the hands are inconsistent and the blocking is going to be subpar. Not really sure what you do with Jay Sternberger.
You still keep Raider over him on the practice squad?
I would, yes.
Okay. Let's see here. How about this offensive line? Obviously, no Kevin Dotson in there. What's Chooks and Dan Moore Jr. look like?
They look fine. I mean, obviously, a core 4 takes his lumps against TJ Watt, and Watt got him really bad on a rip move today. And I thought a core 4 got hurt for a second. He kind of jammed his finger and was holding it as he came off the field, but he finished out today, so that should be okay. But you face TJ Watt, you're going to certainly have your ugly moments there. Dan Moore Jr. looking better when you don't have to see Alex Highsmith because he's been out. But I think Moore's had a nice camp, hard worker, has made some progression, and just a good second year place to be for him after kind of being thrown into the fire his rookie season. Good snaps today. There were no snap issues that I'm aware of, so that's a small thing.
I think I read something about the third stringer there again.
Really?
Having an issue, yeah.
Okay. Is that in the team? Did someone make a reference to that?
I don't remember. I remember seeing something on Twitter about maybe one bad snap from who's the third stringer?
Nate Gilliam.
Yeah, Nate Gilliam.
I don't know why Gilliam is playing center when Chris Owens was primarily a center at Alabama and Owens is playing guard. He's gotten maybe a tiny bit of center work, but it feels like Owens is a bit more natural center. I guess because Owens is a little bit longer and Gilliam isn't, but I feel like Owens should be the center, the third string center.
Since your overreaction the other day on James Daniels, how about an update on him?
Yeah, it's been fine. I think he's been more even and consistent in 1v1s, maybe not quite as good as I would envision and like him to be. There were no 1v1s today because they weren't in pads, so I don't have a note on how all of that went. But I think maybe it's been a bit better than where it was, say, the second week of camp.
All righty. And second team type of stuff? Anything, any interest there?
What do I even have on the second team offensive line if I can maybe find it here? I don't know if I can pull up my notes here quick enough if I even have it written down somewhere. But it's basically it's the usual suspects there of Joe Haig and Hassenauer. Actually, Eggman been working guard because of Kevin Dotson being out. John LeGlue is getting guard and center work as well. So it's kind of all status quo.
All right. Defensive side of the football. The lines are getting a little bit short up front too, right?
Right, at nose tackle, no Tyson Alualu still working on the side, no Montrevious Adams at all, and so Henry Mondeau getting first-team nose tackle reps. You're seeing some Donovan Jeter, some Carlos Davis playing some nose tackle after playing end throughout the start of training camp. They're not in base defense a ton, and so you're not seeing it as much as you may potentially see it in a game, but that's something to note there for Saturday's contest. Isaiah Lattimore, good run session, getting off of blocks. He's having a nice camp overall. And then DeMarvin Leal certainly has been energetic and active and athletic, just working on some of the coordination. And this probably applies more to yesterday than today, but I saw him in one-on-ones especially get a little overextended off his feet, lose his balance. And so I saw Cam Hayward talking with him a little bit yesterday during 1v1s after a couple reps. Just want to play, coordinated with good leverage and good posture and not get over your toes. And that's how you win as a pass rusher.
Well, I can't wait to dive into the all 22, man. It's gonna be like a Christmas in August this coming weekend here. Okay, outside linebacker, no Alex Highsmith out there. I imagine T.J. Watt, they keep him on a relatively short leash. What else is happening?
Really, Watt plays like he's a rookie again. I mean, his
really?
snap count is not all that limited, I don't think. I mean, he'll get the occasional day off, and yesterday didn't work, I don't think, in 1v1s, but he's out there. It's like him and Cam Hayward are out there like they're second-year guys pretty much. Other than that, in terms of notes, Lante Scott continues to make plays, had a batted pass and an attempted wide receiver bubble screen from Mason Rudolph. That one went straight up into the air. I know offensive linemen can't cut and stuff like that, but still, nice play from Scott, who looks active in run session as well. So still seeing how that guy fits, but talk about guys benefiting from injuries. Tuska's doing that. Delonte Scott's been consistently good in my notes basically every single day positively, and I think he's got to at least make the practice squad. He's earned that spot.
All right. Alex, keep those young inside linebackers healthy for me for another day here, okay? Because I'm really excited to see Mark Robinson and Buddy Johnson play a lot in that game against Seattle. Any updates on the inside linebacker position today?
Well, that really was my thought. Not as much about their play, but just the opportunities. We talk so much about Jalen Warren and Master T getting all these reps at running back because no Mateo Durant and no Najee Harris. Well, inside linebacker, there's no Marcus Allen, no UG3, and so you're getting a ton of snaps for Buddy Johnson and for Mark Robinson. So I just love that those guys are getting the opportunity to get a lot of reps and learn and grow and have a lot of tape to go off of. Buddy Johnson's been pretty active. He's been in my notes probably more the last 3 days than he was all the last camp. So I think it's generally good things. It's good just to notice him more, but certainly I'm noticing him more a bit in part because those guys are just getting a ton of reps because of all the injuries to Marcus Allen, UG3, and they're not going to put too many snaps on, Miles Jack and even Devin Bush.
All right, cornerback. Talk to me about Akello Witherspoon and Levi Wallace now.
Yeah, I saw Wallace kind of be a little more defined as a second-team corner today. I know in the 2-minute drill, Wallace ran as the first-team right corner, and he probably wishes he wasn't because he got, schooled by Pickens twice there at the end. But it kind of felt a bit, because there had been more of a rotation earlier on in camp, kind of similar to Bush and Jack and Spillane. We had Witherspoon and Wallace rotating with the ones fairly evenly. It felt like Witherspoon was more clearly defined as that starter. I have a right now good feeling that it'll be Witherspoon and Sutton as the outside corners and base defense come week one, and then Wallace will come on in sub package and nickel, which will still be the majority of the snaps overall. Witherspoon, I know he got beat by Pickens in that one-on-one rep, but he had a great drive and breakup on a slant to Pickens on the first rep of receiver DB. So when Mike Tomlin usually calls out, as he did in that moment, I want 25 and 14. That's what he said. That's because typically those guys are having good battles. It's not one guy schooling the other. It's usually those guys are both having their victories, and Tomlin wants to kind of see it one more time to maybe break a tie or just kind of have those guys go again, similar to how he called Calvin Austin and Chris Steele to go again to finish out the one-on-one stuff today. So Witherspoon has made his place. He's had a good camp overall. Pickens has just, had his share of wins as well.
James Pierre going to make it again?
Yeah, Justin Lane's the guy I'm worried about. That I think he's outside looking in right now, and that continued today. And so Pierre certainly has made more plays in the football. He's the better corner. He's a bigger guy, more physical. And so Justin Lane is that guy that may not be making it.
All right, safety, probably not a lot to pass along there, I wouldn't reckon.
Not a ton, but a general note about today in camp at large. Carl Joseph's had a really strong summer, and he missed a couple of days with a personal. I think he had a kid, but that aside, he's been really physical, impactful, competitive at the catch point, making plays in coverage. I don't know how that's going to fit in terms of him making the 53, but Joseph has really had a good camp for the Steelers.
All right, good. Former first-round draft pick, has the pedigree, has spent more time on the practice squad than he has on the active roster. Be interesting to see. But, he's gotten a lot of work in the slot, right?
Yeah, he's worked some. It's kind of been a rotation there with Millette and Sutton and Norwood and Platel, but certainly Joseph has split time between safety and slot corner.
What kind of camp is Arthur Millette having?
It's a good one. It's been, really solid and fiery and feisty. He's good underneath in coverage. He's good in the run game. He's going to struggle more on vertical concepts over the top and true man coverage, but underneath zone and shorter breaking routes and certainly run defense, he's been really active.
What about Casey in the secondary there? Who's been the primary backup strong safety?
It's been a little bit strange because Fitzpatrick missed so much time. So it started in camp as Casey and Edmonds, and then Killebrew is probably going to continue to be that guy now that he's back full. Prior to that, I'm trying to think back. I guess it was more Steiner as kind of a backup strong safety with Killebrew out and with Casey whenever he was getting first team reps. I saw some more mixing and matching today with Casey and Norwood and Casey and Killebrew, and even some Cam Sutton playing like more true free safety and rotating with Minkah Fitzpatrick. So I think as that group gets healthier, you're going to see a bit more combinations and rotations and stuff like that because this team has more flexibility and has more options, and those are, of course, very good things to have.
All right, before we go any further, while it's on my mind, I don't know if you watched. Did you watch? You probably didn't watch Hard Knocks.
No, I did not
last night, but that started last night. And Dan Campbell, of course, is their head coach and all, and he likes to use a lot of colorful language, a lot of language that I like to use when I'm not on podcast and all like that. A lot of F-bombs and all like that. Mike Tomlin doesn't. How much can you hear Mike Tomlin out there? And he doesn't use that. He doesn't have to use that kind of language, does he?
You hear him pretty well. He's got a very loud, powerful voice, very commanding, as the head coach needs to be. In the last 2 days, especially because the crowds have been lighter, although they've been pretty good crowds the last 2 days, despite all the time changes. He does swear. He doesn't really. Okay. I don't think he drops F-bombs the way that MCDC has, but he'll use more, I guess, PG-13 rated swear words. But certainly, he's not. It's not George Carlin 7 words you can't say, but it's not choir boy either. He talks like a football player talks.
All right, so you don't hear a lot of the F-bombs in, right?
Not from him, maybe with some other people. But again, Tomlin's very good at just needling people and poking people and pushing buttons and getting guys to try to step up after a bad play or a bad rep or whatever the occasion is. He just has a good way of just saying the right thing that kind of piss the guys off to try to get them to bounce back.
Talk to me about 7 shots today, and who was overall today the better unit, offense or defense, just throughout practice?
Well, to the latter one, I'm going to kind of hedge a little bit and say the defense was the better part until 2 minute, and then the offense schooled the defense in the 2 minute drill. Maybe I'll give the edge to the defense for their overall body of work. 7 shots, defense won 5-2. Trubisky went 0-4 and a pretty ugly 0-4 at that. Should have had two passes intercepted. Rudolph had the only 2 touchdowns to Miles Boykin, who made that nice one-handed catch I talked about earlier, and then Cody White on a slant the next play. Kenny Pickett's throw for Jay Sternberger to close things out was incomplete. So defense has been, I don't have the overall camp tally, but I take a pretty strong guess defense has been winning the 7 shots battle overall.
All right. How about an overreaction for the day?
I mean, it's hard not to talk about George Pickens.
Okay, go ahead. I was figuring you're going to go that way. Go ahead. Give me the overreaction here.
I mean, this guy has the chance to be really special. And again, I do talk about, and I've cautioned more than most people, that the route running and getting correct depth and getting in out of your breaks and things like that, those are things he has to work on, but those are things that coaches are doing. I think Frisman Jackson has been a really good hire. So kind of a semi-overreaction to my other overreaction. Frisman Jackson might be a home run hire for the Pittsburgh Steelers. His communication, the coaching points, getting on guys, praising guys when it's warranted, just seems to have a really good relationship with those guys, and they work pretty hard for him. So I'm super excited about Frisman Jackson, similar in the way I was excited about Alfredo Roberts last year with the tight end group, and he did a great job with Pat Frymuth and Zach Gentry. But to go back to Pickens, again, all the traits are there to be a really special player. It will take a little bit of molding, a little bit of time, the occasional mistake, but I mean, he's really fun to watch.
Way back on May 22nd, I put a poll up on the Twitter account there. And I guess over under at the time on George Pickens from one of the lines that I got was 40.5. And I think we sort of talked about this maybe once or twice on the podcast on the regular version of the podcast as well too. Are you ready to slam dunk the over on the 40.5 receptions for George Pickens as a rookie?
I'm getting closer. I just recognize he's going to still be the number 3 receiver in this offense, not going to play in the 12 personnel, 2 receiver sets. And so that's going to cap him a little bit as Pittsburgh tries to run the ball more. I just have the viewpoint of when he hits, he'll hit big and have some really wild moments. So what number to put that at, I'm not quite sure, but he'll be closer to 40 than further away from it in terms of, he's not going to catch 11 passes this year the way that James Washington had a really quiet rookie year. He's going to be someone that catches at least 30, 35, probably 40 balls.
And there's going to be a couple of them that are going to be wow, right?
Right. The impact of those plays may be the real ones. I talk about red zone fades and 50-50 jump balls and stuff like that. I guess to give you a good earnest hot take, it's kind of a hot take, but I think most people would agree. I'm pretty confident George Pickens will win the Joe Green Rookie of the Year award for the Pittsburgh Steelers this year. Because I don't think Kenny Pickett's going to play a lot or play not until late in the season. And Leal and Austin aren't going to have as much the opportunity that Pickens has. But assuming good health, I think Pickens will win that award.
All right. I like it. What else you got for me? Any special team stuff?
Yeah, punting today. I thought Presley Harvin was good. Nazelic has a pretty nasty habit about one good shank and one good out of bounds punt every single day that he's punted, and that was one today that reflected that. So Tyler Vaughn's had a muff punt on air, which is not what you want to see. A pretty minor note. Like I mentioned, Jalen Warren and Trey Norwood getting up back work. Some guys working as gunner today. If I can find it here. Let's see where I had it at. I lost where it was at, but I know that Miles Boykin was working as a gunner, James Pierre, Lyndon Stevens, Tyler Snead. So those guys kind of working as a gunner in special team sessions today.
All right. You tired?
No, I feel good. I mean, practice has been weird without having a couple of days off in the morning practices and all that. So that's a good wrap up for camp. Anything else to talk about, Dave, in terms of non-camp stuff, in terms of things guys have said, whether that was Chase Claypool, Mitch Trubisky, Mike Tomlin speaking with CBS yesterday. Anything of note there?
Nothing. I mean, we're obviously writing about a lot of this stuff overall, but I think just really the biggest thing to come out last, 24, 48 hours was, and it really was to be expected. Mike Tomlin saying if the season were to start now, Trubisky would be the starter. He's doing a good job of trying to tamp down the George Pickens excitement. He's he's doing a good job. He probably thinks he's doing a good job, but it's not working on the fan side for obvious reasons here. Just that he's got a lot to learn still. He's got a lot of areas to develop in and all like that. But I think even him at this point, and he said, look, he made some plays out here and all like that. I'm trying to think of anything else earth shattering.
Are you still of that belief that Trubisky will be the guy? I know you're not at camp, but do you still have that feeling just based on what you've seen and heard and read?
I have no reason to think otherwise until I see him with my own eyes. And I will admit that, Rudolph is having an intriguing. I don't think it's going to be Pickett. I'll tell you that. And sure. I've been in that boat really since day one. I'm really interested to see how Trubisky does during the preseason, and I think I think you put it best. And I think we've said this several times. I think Trubisky has to lose the job more than maybe Mason Rudolph has to win the job, if that makes sense. I mean,
I agree.
If they get out there and we're thinking, my God, well, what a decision by Trubisky, and we're saying that more than a few times, then maybe we need to have a prayer meeting about it there. But I have learned over the years to use you as a pretty good filter and let you paint some pictures for me. Know what to kind of expect when we get into preseason, and then I let the tape talk to me from that point forward there. So I don't have any reason to sit here and say, well, I'm not sure about that. Trubisky being a starter when I'm going through your eyes, right. But it does sound like there's a plausibility factor here that Trubisky needs to be watched during the preseason.
Right. I mean, he has not won the job yet. He still has to show he can look, serviceable and competent inside stadiums. If he does that, and I think he probably will, then he will be this team starter week one. I think the way that Trubisky wouldn't start is if you're sitting there in late August going, Dave, Trubisky just cannot start. Like, he just cannot be the guy. If it's at that point, then I think you have a conversation, and Rudolph may have that door open for him. But unless you're set in that kind of just downtrodden, matter of fact, Trubisky just can't be this guy. He can't be the week one starter. If you're not at that point, then Trubisky will be the guy.
It has bothered me since they signed Trubisky, though, that you're getting a guy that played 30 total snaps. And, he's talked about, all that time did me well in Buffalo and gave me a different perspective and this, that, and the other. That's all fine and good, but he didn't play, and when he did play, what do you have? 8 pass attempts, something like that. One of them was an ugly interception, and I worry about a lot of rust on him more than anything. And I know you got training camp and preseason, and I really hope he comes out and just blisters it during the preseason, so there's just no question,
Sure, no, that'd be ideal. I don't think that's going to happen, but. Again, as long as I think he's competent and serviceable and doesn't fall on his face, he'll be the starter week one.
Look, I'm concerned about the quarterback position as a whole, at least through the 2022 season.
Definitely.
I don't think I've ran from that. I don't think one guy is going to take all the snaps either. And it'd be interesting to see what happens with Mason Rudolph throughout the rest of the summer here, and if he's around and that kind of stuff there. But I'm worried about the offense, and B, I'm worried about the quarterback position specifically in there, especially through the first 6 weeks of the season. I think I've said that most of the off season here. So. Anyway, what do you think?
I guess just real quick, I guess it begs the question: if Trubisky was the guy during the spring, which he was, if he was the guy during the summer, and as if he was always the viewed number one starter, then how much of a competition really was it? I guess is the question. Was there really any plausible? And this is not over, so I know I'm talking like it's over, but it's not. But maybe the thought is, was there less of a battle there than the Steelers, tried to lead on?
Right. And once again, you asked me and point blank, I don't have any reason right now to think that Mitchell Trubisky will not open up the season as a week one, starting quarterback. Now where
Agreed.
it goes from there, I don't know. Obviously his play will decide how long he stays under center there. Now within that, once again, if you get into these 3 preseason games and there are a lot of eyebrow raising, then we'll talk about it there. What do you think about all this Roquan Smith fuss?
Just fuss. I know I have not responded to it, but I saw whenever I mentioned that Chase Claypool was not out there, I got a slew of Roquan Smith jokes and memes and photos. I promise you Claypool has not been traded to Chicago. I don't think that's going to happen. I'm not sure what the ask would be for Roquan Smith. I think Chicago will try to salvage things first and not make a decision on Smith tomorrow, although I think Smith just came off of the PUP list, so I don't know if that indicates anything or not, but I think it's all just typical fodder. There's 20 other teams talking about trading for that guy right now.
Look, stranger things, I guess. People have asked me about this as well, too. And I know our own Jonathan Heitritter kind of wrote about it and kind of addressed the plausibility of it in a post the other day there. The Steelers right now currently have less cap space than Roquan Smith's designated 2022 fifth-year option salary. Okay, so before they would, if indeed the Steelers were interested in trading for Roquan Smith, first and foremost, they would have to get permission to talk to him, because I would have a feeling that the Steelers would want to work out some sort of extension with him before trading for him. You agree with that, first and foremost, right?
Yes.
Second of all, I think Roquan Smith represents himself, so you got to be real careful there with the whole tampering thing. Next is, if you did, what kind of compensation would it take to get he was a first rounder, right?
Yes.
Yeah. What kind of compensation would it take to get him? He's obviously looking for a contract, I would think, that exceeds his fifth-year option amount, and then some. So that's another obstacle there. So even if you had the sights on trading for him and then giving him a new deal right away, you would still have to accommodate that salary in some way, shape, or form. So you're probably going to have to do some sort of a restructure with somebody to help accommodate that. So there, I don't want to be the one to sit here and poo-poo on everybody's idea about it, but and yeah, they did trade for Minkah Fitzpatrick a couple years ago and all that, but man, it seems like there's so many variables that are a little bit different here in play that I would be pretty shocked if they did something for him. Now it's not totally out of the question, because didn't they have some level of interest in him?
Did they? I mean, that would make sense, but I don't recall specifically. I don't see it happening.
Yeah, I don't see it happening overall. No, but a lot of people are certainly seem to be interested in that, because everybody and their brother's writing about it right now. It sounds like the Bears are going to try to do everything they can to make him happy. So we'll see.
I do wonder what any team would have to give up to acquire him, because you're paying him. He wants out. There's some leverage against Chicago. There's an off-ball linebacker. There's a little less perceived value there. A second and a third, is that a good number to put for a guy like Roquan Smith?
I would think at least the second's got to be involved on the Bears end,
but not a first, right? I would see a first. Okay,
right, because Roquan's kind of got them over the barrel there. And if indeed he does one out, this might be just all negotiation tactic, and he or maybe he does really want out of there. So, I mean, we could be talking the next by Friday, him being dealt somewhere. I don't know there, but I just, I know everybody would like the Steelers to go after him. I just, from where I sit and kind of looking at all the obstacles involved here, I would be a bit surprised if they did.
Yeah, I don't think Pittsburgh's going to be a player at all for Roquan Smith. I don't know where he'll end up, if he'll stay in Chicago, if he'll go somewhere else. I'm just pretty confident that place won't be Pittsburgh. All
right. Anything else we have to kind of extend this thing out a little bit for the folks? We cover everything?
I think we covered basically everything. Yeah. Omar Khan speaking about Deontay Johnson, and I don't know if anything super relevant or interesting was said there, but I know Omar Khan at least talked about that publicly.
Yeah, I just look. You would like Deontay to possibly even stay further past his contract, and why wouldn't he say that?
Right.
From where we sit now, I think the biggest thing now as we start getting ready for Thursday is be interested to see how many of these guys they can get back on the practice field that have been the day-to-day variety, as Mike Tomlin likes to call it. And then, really, the more interesting thing is if Mike Tomlin gives us anything to kind of hang our hats on during the press conference, kind of a loosely defined quarterback rotation, who guys definitely won't play, and that kind of stuff that goes along with the first press conference before a preseason game.
Right. And imagine Tomlin usually gives you something to work with there. I don't think he'll be super coy about it. And I know that Geno Smith will start for Seattle. So it'll be Geno Smith probably against Trubisky Saturday night at Acrisure Stadium.
All right, I'm interested to see how much they feel they have to play Rudolph, really, to be honest with you.
What's your take? Before Tomlin gives the answer, or maybe gives more of an answer tomorrow, how do you think the quarterback depth chart and rotation will work in the opener?
Here's a little bit of breaking news for you. The Steelers waived injured Ulysses Gilbert III.
And they just got Hamilcar Richard off of waivers.
Right.
That's the Oregon State guy, I want to say.
Seemed like we've talked about him before, right?
He had an impressive tape, didn't he? And he had a really good year, like his next to last year in college, and then he had a bad senior season at Oregon State. I'll have to get the stats on that, but that's something to note there. I think, Hamilcar had a really good junior year and then kind of tanked the senior year.
All right, so we will get to writing that up right away here. So that UG3, unfortunate situation for him, right?
Yeah, I'm not too surprised. That looked like a multi-week injury there and just no time to keep him around. So his season's done. And Richard, I think, was more of an edge guy. And so we'll see if, trying to shore up some of the edge pass rushers with Highsmith and Avery dealing with some injuries.
All right. So with that, you can follow me on Twitter at Steelers Depot. Follow Alex at Alex_Kozora. Follow the show at Terrible Podcast. Email the show, theterriblepodcast@gmail.com. If you like what we do and want to donate, SteelersDepot.com. Hit the donate button. Also, ad-free version of the site is available as well at SteelersDepot.com. If you have any problems with those pop-ups and all, like I said, take a screenshot and fire them over to us, theterriblepodcast@gmail.com. Alex and I will be back Thursday night around this time, wrapping up what happened Thursday, and we'll have a next regular edition of the Terrible Podcast on Friday morning. So as always, thanks for listening to this special edition of the Terrible Podcast, Pittsburgh Steelers Training Camp 2022 with Dave and Alex.